Okay, welcome back. You were talking about policies that can deliver, and attract investment for Nigeria. Looking at the policies that we have, fiscal, monetary, trade, would you say this government is on the right track?
In a lot of cases, we're on the right track. It is how fast you implement that really makes a lot of difference. For example, this exiting of the joint venture could have been done, if you like, 20, 30 years ago. We had no business. That business model was not sustainable anywhere. So we have done that. We need to move very quickly in setting specific decisions. One is, what do you fund in a budget and what should be funded outside the budget? In most countries of the world, you don't build railways out of your budget, because a railway is a commercially viable business. Right now, we borrow money from China. We are trying to pay loans from the budget every year, so your debt service is going up. If you just move to telecom, 2001, we said we can't fund telecom from budget. We gave licenses. Today, government is not funding telecom from budget. Government is getting billions and billions in fines, in taxes from the telecom industry. If you did exactly that with the railways in 2001, today you have railways running around the whole country giving money to government rather than you looking for money from budget to fund. So the point being made by my colleagues on security and health is that it is important to understand what budget you fund and what budget should not fund. Once you do that, you can then focus the budget on the things that should be funded. UNESCO says you should spend 20% of your budget on education. That's because 26% on the budget. That's because education has to be funded by government at certain levels. Primary and secondary, you can't privatize that. Government must do that. Primary health care, government must do that. It's not a commercially viable thing to do. But specialist medical care, advanced medical care, you can have a lot of private sector participation in that. So that's why policy is so important. That you first of all decide what really should we be funding from the budget and what should we not be funding. You can afford to reduce zero on airports, on railways, and get private sector to do that, and have more money for education, for defense. So that really is. So if we want the recovery we are talking about, government needs to move much faster in getting the private sector into those areas where it is their business, they know how to do it. As a federal government, I don't know how to run railways. I've never run railways. So struggling to run the railway as a government, in most parts of the world, private companies pump millions into railway. It's a very profitable business.
Indeed.
Same thing with airports.
I actually watched the documentary and how the country got its railways built. And I thought, Mr. Kuma, I'd like you to weigh in on this. And I thought, okay, maybe that could also help. I mean, this guy owns a railway. Mr. Dahosa is a manufacturer of flowers. So he goes to Mr. Dahosa, you need your flowers to go here and here and here. I can build you the rails that will get you to that place. What I need you to do is, I get 2% of whatever it is you're selling, or 1%. So you're not paying me. Just manufacture, give me. When you sell, I get 2%. I'm just taking you, and then I go ahead to build the rails. That is a private, what we call PPP, right?
Public-private partnership.
Public-private partnership. Can that work as we speak in Nigeria today?
You have to have a lot of trust and integrity. You have to have a system whereby the value chain is maintained.
When I say can it work in Nigeria today?
Yes, it can.
With our security situation, can it also apply to security as well?
Well, security is a public good. Many aspects of security, of course, are being privatized or can be privatized. There are things like central monitoring facilities, emergency response capabilities, and so on, guarding of prisoners, running of prison facilities, even down to fire service that can be privatized or that's being privatized, even privatized right now in Nigeria. In fact, part of my release yesterday was in terms of the ungoverned spaces we have. I said, look, let us have what we call a modified civilian JTF in rural areas, because these guys can come there. There's no security personnel. They kill all kinds of people and walk away from there. But if you have private individuals who are deputized, like vigilantes, and I'm sure people will agree that vigilantes are very effective throughout in rural communities in this country today, because the police, they are not enough to get everywhere. The soldiers, of course, have far fewer. The soldiers are like 25% of the police force itself. You know, so you don't have enough security personnel to do this. So yes, the direct answer to your question is yes, but you know, you have to look at, in terms of the way you structured it, you have to look at who is going to deliver what service, how are we going to agree, what kind of agreements are we going to have, and how are we going to respect those agreements, because Nigeria does not have a reputation for respecting its agreements too well. When Nigeria makes an agreement with you, many of the times they are broken, and people remember these things. We might think it's not important here, but if you are, particularly if you are making the agreement with a foreign entity, they remember, they have long memory. We might forget, because you know we are more short-term in memory. We might forget, but they remember. So when you say to somebody, come and use this airport facility, develop it for us and things, and then 2 years a new government comes in, get out. Those people go back, but their foreign service, they document all of these things and they put it against Nigeria. They say Nigeria does not respect agreements, and that's a bad reputation that we have acquired over the years, which might make it difficult for us to attract foreigners in to build some of this infrastructure is saying on that basis, because they will say, look, the next guys that come around may not honor the agreements that these other guys made with you. Even the guys who made the agreements sometimes will honor their own agreements too.
Mr. Mabinori, the difference, he talked about privatization, but then there's the other side of partnership. What's the difference?
Well,
in this case now, we need something to happen.
Yeah, I think privatization is better than partnership, in my own opinion.
That's a PPP.
Not really PPP, just encouraging private sector to lead the economy. Because if you look at it now, when government comes into, for instance, this current budget, we have Lagos Calabar Railway, we have Lagos Kano Railway, we have so many roads and the likes to be done, over 65 roads to be in the 6 to the political regions to be attended to by government. In my own opinion, I think government is just trying to overstretch itself. Most of these things can be commercialized or even privatized. See, the essence of government has no business in business, other than to create an enabling environment for investors, for private individuals to thrive. So in my own opinion, what I think government should have done, because if government comes in too much into provision of most of these activities, it will lead to what we call crowding out effect. When government does everything that individuals should do. Number one, government have been seen over the years to be inefficient, in terms of managing some of these facilities. So why not give to individuals? Even if it requires you concessioning for certain number of years, fine. Just as Mr. Kumo said the other time, we have what we call distrust between government and investors. But to an extent, we have seen some of them that are working. Look at Lagos Lekki Concession Company. So if you look at Lekki about 10 years ago, look at what we have right now. Everybody's enjoying. Your cars work very well. The roads are okay. They are well maintained compared to Lagos-Ibadan Express Road, which is being run by government itself. So if government comes, okay, and just as Mr. Dausa said the other time, a budget cannot take quarters of recession. Because what we have, the recession we actually have right now, we didn't get it overnight. It's more or less like policy deficient induced recession. We didn't get it overnight. It was as a result of one bad policy to another bad policy to another bad policy. So we actually require policy, efficient policies to also take us out of this recession, not just one budget. Even if this budget had been at 10 trillion naira as we have it, and it's also not, for instance, last budget now, nobody knows the percentage that has been executed so far. It's more or less like, okay, don't let them know. We shouldn't be that way, because there are so many things. This budget, for instance, I know the government means well for us, but there are so many assumptions that, for instance, saying you want to produce 2.2 million barrel per annum is more or less unrealistic. Last year, we lost over $2 trillion naira as a result of vandalism and what have you from as revenue. And a government that loses $2 trillion naira out of its expected revenue, how do you want them to survive?
Okay, so how do you rather it turns out?
What I would have preferred is most of these things that government is getting itself involved should have been privatized. So most of the time when you look at PPP, it comes in terms of trust and distrust and what have you, to be affected. Government should totally take off its hand off most of these projects and privatize them. Individuals have been known to because we are all profit oriented. They will do these services efficiently well and make their money. But the end of being in business is to provide services and at the same time make profit, not government.